Clement, good evening, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with you, David. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for taking time. And Clement, as I mentioned just beforehand, the BYU Management Society is fully committed to developing young professionals. And one of the programs they have for doing that is this Young Professional Career Engagement Program, which is sort of mentoring, but much more. And so that has two parts to it. One is informational interviews that people can hear from accomplished individuals like yourself. And then the second part is when somebody's gone through a degree program or a vocational program and they want to get into the job market, to put them in front of successful people who can kind of help coach them, not a job placement firm, who kind of help coach them and create opportunities. So we would love to learn from you today for the next 30 or so minutes. And to begin with, would you just kind of state, who you are, what's your name, maybe a little bit about your family, calling in the church, but then we'll kind of move into your professional life.
Great. Well, my name is Clement Matswagothata, and I like the last part because Matswagothata is difficult. It's not a very common name around here. I'm from Gaborone, Botswana. Now, just to give you an understanding of what Matswagothata means getting out of a very difficult situation. Now, generally, in the African context, a lot of our names always have a meaning to it. If you track down the name, you'll find that there's always some meaning behind it. So my great-grandparents, in whatever setup they found themselves in, must have had lots of challenges that they had to go through, work with, and work around. And so we believe as a people, as a family, to be resilient. We believe that anything that you need to do, you need to put a lot of effort into it. Resilience, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your professional life, whatever it is, but you've got to put effort into it and make it work, because we are people that have come from tough and difficult situations. So we know how to kind of maneuver our way around it. But just about my family, I'm married to a very beautiful Zulu woman. She's from South Africa originally, though I'm from Botswana. So we met in two different countries, and we've got three beautiful girls. And they are really the ones that keep us going. They keep us active. They keep us doing the things that we should be doing. From a church perspective, I've served in several assignments in the church. I've had the privilege of being used by the Lord in a few areas, and I've served a mission which I thought was probably a game changer. It changed everything, the way I looked at life. That was one of the most important things that happened in my life, is a mission that I served for the church. I came back, I got a chance to serve as a quorum president. I've served on the High Council. I've served as a bishop. I've served as a stake president, and now I'm serving as an Area 70. So every single assignment has had its wonderful moments that we've had a wonderful time. My wife and I have just loved serving the people. We've gone out there to serve the people, but the people have made our lives a joy. We've learned so much from those that we've had a privilege to serve. And we've just always believed that if the Lord needs you for whatever it is, we're never too busy. We put up our hands and we go and we do. And that's a little bit about my family.
That is beautiful. And I love that, never too busy to serve the Lord, right? That's just beautiful. Okay, so Clement, going forward now, so you went on your mission, and tell us where you went on your mission, but what did you do after that in terms of education, and how did you kind of break into, the workforce, and then talk about, what you're currently doing?
Fantastic. Now, just to brief overview, I went on my mission. I had a chance. I was working in the banking industry before my mission, but I already made a decision I was going to serve a mission one day. So once my mission call came out, I left and I went and served in Cape Town. That was a couple of years ago, 2001 to 2003. And then on coming back, I found myself a companion without delay. So I found my wife, got married. And then interestingly, I was networking with a few people at one of the events. And one of the guys said, listen, what was this mission all about? So I told him about what we do for 2 years as missionaries. And he thought, if a guy could sell, as in his words, he said, if a guy could sell Bibles, perhaps we could try to get him to sell cars. And so I moved into the sales space, and I started off as a sales executive or salesman in a car dealership. So I got in there, and that's why I said everything that I did was shaped by my mission. So I got in there and I know what it's like to get referrals on a mission. I know what it's like to knock on doors. I know what it's like to be rejected. I know what it's like to put together a plan to say, what are we going to do over the next day, over the next 3 days, over the next 3 weeks, over the next 3 months? So you plan your life out, and all those plans that I learned on mission, I came home and that became part of my career. So I started off in sales, and a few months later, there was a position for a senior sales executive. I was appointed or promoted to that position, which was an exciting one, which means I needed to oversee some of my fellow salesmen of sales executives. And I think a year and a bit later, I was appointed as sales manager in that very same team. And as I was sales manager, but I'd made a promise to my in-laws when I married their daughter that I would ensure that she finishes her university education. So as soon as we got married, my wife completed her degree. And as soon as she was done with hers, she made sure that I completed mine. So she said, you go straight to school and you make sure you study. So I was studying and working at the same time. So I had a family, I had work, I had assignments in the church. I had this whole balance that I had to get right. And so I was a sales manager for a couple of years. And a while after that, there was a position. Now, as a sales manager, I was overseeing a whole sales team with a whole planning team. This whole planning team had to plan how many cars we were going to get in. This was for Volkswagen dealership. How many cars are we going to bring in? How do we plan for the first week, for the first month, for the whole 3 months? Because these cars are coming from Germany through South Africa. So you've got to have a whole pipeline ready. So that was very exciting. And so I learned a lot just working with a team. And so I had a couple of people that reported into me at the time. And I think 2 years of doing that, then there was a position available to become a dealer principal, in simple terms, a general manager. Now, the general manager oversees the new cars, the used cars. He oversees the accounting side of the business, the parts side of the business, the service part of the business, the whole entire after sales side of the business, and the front end of the business. So basically, you oversee the entire dealership. So I then got to a point where I was overseeing the whole dealership, which started off as a Volkswagen dealership that was overseeing the affairs thereof. And later on, we attached the Audi dealership, so I had to oversee Volkswagen and Audi. And then on the later stage, we had the commercial side of our business, which is more the truck side, the bigger vans, and those are used as delivery vans and as taxis and so on and so forth. So I then became the general manager of this business, which I did at a senior level, for quite a number of years, probably over 15 years at that. And then about a year and a bit ago, I was appointed to be the CEO of the company, or the country manager. That means now not only do I oversee the Volkswagen side of the business and the Audi side of the business, but I also oversee the Ford side of the business. There's the Mazda side of the business. There's the Volvo side of the business. And so our businesses are throughout the country. I mean, we've got different offices in different parts of the country. And we also do business with a mine. Mining is extremely big in Botswana as a country. So we set up businesses within the mine where we run a parts consignment parts side for them. And we then supply the two biggest mines in the country with all their passenger and mid-size to heavy commercial vehicles with parts. So we then do the parts consignment for all the different brands, whether it's Mercedes-Benz, whether it's Mitsubishi's, whether it's Toyotas, whatever parts it is. So that is really what I do as the country manager. I oversee the business of see all the operations of the business throughout the entire country. And this is an international business, of course, headquartered in South Africa. And so I oversee the affairs of it out on this side of the world.
Wow. And so you sleep 3 hours a night then?
Well, I try.
Okay, that's amazing. So it's interesting. And because of your assignment, you travel a little bit too. So which countries do you feel like you have a certain degree of awareness towards? Because, as our viewers watch this and kind of, which countries do you feel like you have a certain closeness to, better than, a reasonable understanding of?
Okay, now from an assignment point of view, I cover, we go for state conference assignment to any of the countries in the South Africa South area. So I've been to Zimbabwe, I've been to Zambia, I've been to Mozambique, I've been to Madagascar, I've been to Namibia, I've been to South Africa, I've been to Malawi. And so I've been to, say, almost all the countries within our area. Mm-hmm. However, as part of my coordinating council, I oversee the affairs of the church or the coordinating council in Zambia, Malawi, and Botswana, Namibia, and a little portion of South Africa, which covers Pretoria, Mabopane, Polokwane, and Zanin. So I oversee a bit of South Africa, the whole of Botswana from a coordinating council perspective, Namibia, Zambia, and Malawi. So I'm very well vested with what's happening in Namibia, in Zambia, and Malawi because of the fact that I work with those coordinating councils on a very, very close basis.
Okay, excellent. Beautiful. Honestly, this is great because you're uniquely qualified to share some wonderful advice. So if you sit there and think about people entering the job market today, maybe in those countries that you just mentioned, and you think about career opportunities. I mean, one, you made a career in sales, and sales has been, it's been the eighth wonder of the world in many ways, right? Because it's a career you can enter without capital, but because of persistence and passion, like Angela Duckworth talks about, you can do great things, right? But can you talk about, and from your perspective, and you mentioned now everything you deal with, from logistics to finance to sourcing, which we know has been an issue with COVID and everything. Can you maybe just at a high level talk about what are career opportunities that you think are out there that would be great for our young adults that maybe they've not thought of, but things that they could investigate and pursue a little bit more?
Perfect. I think one of those that comes right at the top of my mind, and perhaps because I am in the automotive business, I've been in the industry for close to 20 years. I would say one of the things that comes to my mind is technical skills. I think there's a huge opportunity for people to go into the technical field. Why do I say that? It's not just, though we've got shortage of technical skills as a business and we see it throughout the industry, I'm close enough to some of my friends and colleagues in the motor business, who are, some of them are in Europe, some of them are laying out as far off as Germany, as Portugal, as Spain. Whenever we've got interactions, you always hear everybody mention the same thing, that there's this feeling in the world that everybody has to go and do some kind of management course. Great, if you want to do it, we're not going to discourage you, but we're saying, look at where the gaps are. Look at where the opportunities are. So if you come back and you do something that's technical, firstly, you'll get a lot of companies that'll be willing to give you the experience that you need on the job. They'll give you on-the-job training. You'll be part of them. And once you've qualified at a later stage, some will hold on to you. We've got that. We've got some technicians that we hold on to. And some we say to, listen, we've got enough. We're not going to keep the next 2 or 3. But because of the amount of experience they've picked up during the time they've worked in the workforce, it's 3 to 4 years that you do your apprenticeship. During the 3-4 year period, you've learned so much in the technical field. Now, I'll use the same theory to say, when I say technical, it's not just in becoming an auto mechanic or a car mechanic. You can become a plumber. You can become a builder. You can become an electrician. There's so many skills out there that need people's hands, where you actually need to go out there and apply yourself and do something. Because the reality of that is, as and when these kind of jobs, if you lose your job for whatever reason, companies close down, there's other opportunities, you can go out there and you can start your own business. Right now, I'm just going to give you a quick example. We've got a gentleman that we use, and we use him as a contractor. He doesn't work for us anymore. He used to work for us. He doesn't work for us anymore. He's opened his own business. But as and when we need advice from him or get some thoughts from him, it's easy to pick the phone and ask him a few questions. But you realize he's been empowered. He's been able to start his own business. He's been able to move on. And that is why I say, I think there's a great opportunity, especially for our young adults, to look at areas where they can use their hands, where they can go into the technical skill field, and not everybody going into the studying for degrees, which is great. Please don't ever feel that you shouldn't, because it's very important that you study for that. And I might have an opportunity to talk about it later on, how I've benefited by studying for my degree at a later stage. I've always been grateful for the fact that there's so much that I learned and I've been able to apply to my day-to-day work. So that's just some of my thoughts as I've traveled around. I think in the technical field where you can use your hands, there's great opportunities there, really great opportunities.
That's a wonderful point. I guess for a second, when you think of technical skills, because it's a broad area, right? So there's because cars today, and especially if we get to autonomous vehicles, at some point in time, they become even more and more technical, right? So you've got the technical side from all the I might say, craftsman type skills and other things, which are essential. But then you have like the coding, programming, digital kind of skills. And so can you talk a little bit about those too, and how you see, opportunities for that in the region that, that you're closest to?
Okay, great. And now just talking about that, because you made me think of something. I'm busy doing some research project at the moment, and it involves electric cars and where Africa is going with regards to electric cars. And you realize that the world is not going to sit back and wait for Africa. The world's going to move on.
Right.
The question is, what are we doing to invest in ourselves and our people to be able to do things in that field? So when you talk about robotics, you talk about, in fact, just basic computer skills, the ability to diagnose online. Back in the day, people used to drop big engines and they used to get themselves dirty and filled with oil. Right now, before you even touch anything, the question is, how well vested are you with a computer? What are your computer skills like? Because now you do a lot of online diagnosis, meaning you plug in a computer here, you should be able to have somebody else in a different country, any part of the world, they could join in and you can literally work together real time, go through diagnostics. And if you don't have those skills, as I do, it's not just the hard mechanical skills, but the soft items of how good are you with coding? How good are you with regards to your computing skills? Because that is so vital. And going forward, there will be a greater gap in that area. And unless we get on board right now, we will have to, in a few years' time, almost put a pause button and say to the world, hey, world, you've left us behind. You got to come back and pick us up. And the world's not going to wait for anybody. Everything continues to move on. And so there's opportunities in that field too. I strongly feel there's opportunities in that area.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The fact that the world will not wait, and it certainly doesn't. Okay, so we've talked about those areas. Are there any other areas that you, and maybe that's pretty inclusive and becomes more of a question for people to drill down. Maybe can you talk a little bit about, from your experience, how do people kind of learn? How do they kind of explore a career? How have you seen people who came to you because they had done their homework? It was a much better conversation than they said to you, hey, Clement, give me a job or something. Kind of talk about how you kind of earn your way to creating a career for you versus waiting for destiny to come your way.
And you talk about that, David. I'll think about it at the top of my head. And I love young people. I just love their excitement for life. I like their enthusiasm for what's happening around them. And I just constantly caution them on one thing. I say, it's wonderful to live in a world with so much information, but you must be aware of what it is that you want and what it is that you need. And out of this information world, with everything that goes on around you, try to find a real life person. Try to talk to somebody. And my experience has been with all of my colleagues in different spheres, especially in the economic, in the business world, is they're always willing to share. They're always willing to share their knowledge, because as a true professional, for you to grow, you always want to see the next person next to you grow and develop and become. It doesn't do much harm to take a young person in, sit down with them, and then show him, in fact, coach him and help him along the line. But the one thing you will not do is you will not force feed somebody. They must have a desire to learn. They must have a desire to know. They must have a desire and a certain sense of curiosity in the world to say, how do I find out more? So my advice to young people is, first, find out what your passion is. What is it that you like doing? Find somebody within that sphere of in the, whether it's in the business world or wherever it is, somebody that's doing that. Set up an appointment with them. Go and visit with them. And when you go visit with them, don't just show up and say, so tell me, what do you do around here? Show them that you've done some homework, you've done some research, you've learned something about that field. It's, listen, I'm interested in this. I know this part and this part. How would you help me go to the next stage? What would you advise that I do? Because then instantly they realize, I'm talking to somebody who really wants to grow. It's not somebody that's here to come and waste my time. They've done their homework. They really want to know what this field is about. And that is how those kind of people grow, develop, and become. So my advice to any young person is, please don't sit back. People that have made it in different fields in business, they always want to share this. My experience has been, to this very day, I still reach out to wonderful businessmen and say, listen, I'd like you to share some thoughts with me. I'm going through a difficult business decision here to make. What would be some of your thoughts? I've weighed out these two options. I'm thinking about a third one. Just share with me some thoughts. And they would be more than happy to say, listen, Clement, let's go out, let's have lunch together, let's chat around it. And as we talk about it, ideas start coming. But I'm not going to call them and say, listen, I've got a difficult business decision to make. What do you think I should do? Because they're not going to share with me. They're not going to tell me what to do. I know the business. I've done some homework, but they're happy to engage me and say, let's talk about this. And so my advice to young people is please don't be shy. Find out, go to people, set up appointments, go out there, ask them for thoughts and ideas and share with them what you've learned. They'll be more than happy to hold your hand and to walk with you a little bit.
So that is beautiful. And related to that, can you talk for a minute just about like a formal mentoring relationship that, maybe that you've had as being a mentor to somebody or somebody had to you, and whatever the role was, maybe briefly explain what does the mentor's responsibility and what is the mentee's responsibility? Can you talk about that for a minute?
I will, but I'm going to share with you the most rudimentary or basic one I've ever done. And I don't talk about it quite a bit because I don't want it to reflect on me. I don't want people to think I'm this great guy, because that's not really what happened. But I showed up at work one morning and there's a gentleman that was always pushing. He's cleaning up at the office. He cleans up the paving. He makes sure everything is in great condition. And every morning I would stop by and find him standing outside. He's taking his first smoke in the morning and then he starts pushing this thing. So I said to him, listen, I don't know how much you spend on your smokes. It's not really my issue, but can you and I enter into a deal? If you will do me a favor, if you give up smoking, I'll pay for half the cost that it would take for you to get a driver's license. I think you'll become a great driver and you pay for the other half, but you and I need to meet each other halfway. I'm not going to pay for it in full. But if you give up smoking, I promise you that you'll have enough money left and I'll be able to pay for half of it and you pay for half of it. And so he did exactly that. But he said to me, oh, you gave me all the problems. He said, no, but it's not possible for that to happen. You must remember that I work long hours. My only break is the lunch break. I said, I will extend your lunch break by another 30 minutes. So we sorted out a driving school. We did this. He gave up smoking. And him and I paid for this 50-50. He went to the driving school. He got a driver's license. As soon as he got his driver's license, he said, can I get a driver's job? I said, no, I don't have a driver's job available. But when something becomes available, I will surely put you first on that list. So when a driver's job became available, in fact, before the driver's job became available, I said to him, when you've got your lunch break, I want you to go into the workshop, spend time with the technicians, see what they do, learn from them, clean around the workshop area, clean up where they, ask them, what's this part for? What do you do with this? Why do you have to fit this? Learn about what they do. It's a very long story, but give you the short version. We got him a driver's job. He was working as a driver, and every time when he came back from running his errands, he had to go straight into the workshop, spend time with the technicians. Wow. 4 years later, he had gone through the whole technical program. He had become a technician. Now, years later, he's one of our diagnostic technicians. And every time I meet with him, obviously this was over 10 years ago that we had this program that we work in, him and I together. But I want to bring in the mentee and the mentor. I did not have to force him to do this. He had certain obligations. He had certain things he had to do and he had to report back on how he was doing. At the same time, I had certain things that I would help him with and I had to keep my word. Regardless of how busy my schedule was, I say to him, you and I could meet at a specific time. He wasn't just going to rock up in my office and say, oh, I'm here, let's sit and let's talk. We knew we had to set up an appointment and say, listen, we'll meet the second Thursday or the third Thursday of the month. We'll spend an hour together and we'll talk about a couple of things. And we worked on this program. And so this was the one guy that I always use as example because it was such a basic thing that he did from being a cleaner to becoming a diagnostic technician. That was a long journey for him to undertake, but he had to believe in himself and his own abilities. He had to believe that whatever I told him to do and whatever I advised him to do, he had to do his part and I had to do my part. And we walked this journey together. It wasn't me enforcing this on him and vice versa. We worked this journey together, and out of this process, he's been able to become what he's become. I've also seen, and on a different note, I've also seen managers that I've had a chance to mentor who come to me and say, please, I'd like you to be my coach. But then I ask him to do hard things. I ask them to go back and do research on certain things. I ask them to do something. And then they come back and it's wishy-washy and they've not done their part. And I say to him, I value my time and I value your time. And I don't want us to sit here and waste each other's time. But if you don't do certain things, it's difficult for me to walk you through this because I'll just come out here, open up a hose pipe of information, splash it all over your face, and you walk away from you and you think, what was he going on about? but we need to work on this together, because you must have the desire to reach a certain end. And you must say, I think this gentleman has been in the business long enough to be able to hold my hand. He should be able to help me. So that's a lot of trust that's required when you go into a mentee and mentor relationship. But one of the things I'll go back to time and time again, you must want it bad enough to go after it, because it must be your dream. It must be your vision. You must see this. You must picture yourself as, when I worked with this gentleman, he was just the guy that was cleaning. He was the janitor. But I needed to help him see in his mind, in his vision, more than just being a janitor. I needed to help him see that he could become a technician. I had to help him see that he could be a driver one day. And he stood there, he was amazed, walking through the showroom floors, looking at all these beautiful cars that were standing there. He thought, could I ever sit behind the steering wheel of any of these? But I had to make him believe it's possible. But there were certain things he had to forgo, and certain things that he had to do. And it was through that process, and that process works in any industry that you're in. There'll be certain things you'll have to forgo. There'll be certain decisions you'll have to make. There'll be a certain vision you need to see. And just remember, it doesn't happen overnight. You will have moments when you get discouraged. You'll have moments it doesn't look like it's coming together, but you work at that over and over and over again, and you win the prize at the end of the day.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. I'm glad we are recording this, because this is great advice. Okay, I'm mindful of your time. Probably two last questions. One would be, so we spoke of mentoring, but talk about networking, especially because you talked a little bit of networking where you got advice from a close group of trusted people. But can you talk a little bit about the benefits for networking, and when you network, how do you create value in that network so people want to network with you? They feel like it's worthwhile having that relationship with you.
Now, this is a very interesting one, because I'll say to you, David, one of the things I've also learned is, and I share this advice with people all the time, I say, when you go out there and you want to learn or grow yourself and grow your career and develop yourself and grow yourself, make sure that you avoid people that are negative. You'll find them everywhere. A lot of people will tell you what will not work. A lot of people will tell you, oh, I've tried this doesn't work. And maybe it runs in my DNA. I say to you, Matswagothata means persevering, overcoming obstacles, working at things. And one of the things I remember so well was when I started in the sales business. A lot of people say to me, oh no, we've been selling cars for the last 10 years and nothing really changes. And I said to him, I don't know how you've done it, but I'm going to do it my way. And so I spent time. I love playing golf. I'm not good at it, but I love playing golf. So I spent time going to the golf course, because I realized there was a lot of successful people there. That was over 20 years ago. I was I was just starting out my career. And I thought, I'm going to spend time. I'll take cars, put them on display. And when I get to the golf course, I'm going to try and interact with these people, because these people are people that have made it in business, right, or they're there for different business ideas. Let me try and get to know them. And so I wouldn't just show up there and have an unimportant conversation. I'll try to find out, what do they do? Ask them about themselves. You see, when you ask people about themselves, they want to talk about it. They want to tell you more about it. It's not just you saying, yeah, listen, my name is Clement. Will you please become my friend so that in future you and I could become friends and maybe we could work together? No, it doesn't work that way. And so I'll ask them about their business. I'll ask them, what do they do? I'll say to them, oh, really, it's good to hear. What's your schedule like? I'd like to learn more about your business. I'd like to find out, what are some of your challenges you find in your business? And so networking became, once again, I'll tap on a mission. You go back and you use that experience to get to know more about people. You're not just getting there to say, how quickly can you help me? And if you can't help me, I'm going to take your business card and chuck it away, because there's really nothing you and I can do together. There's certain people I networked with over 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that at the time, there was very little we could do together. But we stayed in touch. I kept contact with them. I would ask them about different things. Oh, you said this to me 5 years ago. Tell me, how's the business environment now that we see this in the economy? And 5 years later, they've picked up the phone and said, hey, Clement, remember we met at this and that place? And then we start talking about different things. Listen, I've got a friend of mine who said they've got this and that. Would you be able to help them? I'm not even directly involved with this individual. He's referring me to a friend. He's talking to somebody else about me. And that is why networking is, from my point of view, is so vital, because it's not something that always gives you a quick result. It is something that you work on. It's relationship that you build, but it's almost, you can almost bet on it that at some stage or the other, you will find the benefit of those relationships. You'll find the benefit of having gotten to know people, having had genuine interest in them, and having tried to find out what it is that they do, and somehow how you could link up with them, and what are some of the things you could collaborate, what are some of the things you could do together. I love marketing, because I say to people, listen, I'm not into this right now, but how about you and I could perhaps meet up in 3 months' time, and we could find things we could do together. I'll give you an example. Sorry, I'm going to go off a little bit off on this one, but I'll give you an example about marketing. And I'll say to people, listen, I met somebody a few years ago, and we were at some golf day together. And I found that they're into fashions, and they do fashion designing. And I thought, that's got very little to do with cars. I mean, cars, fashion designing, really. But I said to him, listen, when's your next fashion show? And he said, oh no, we're putting up a fashion show in 6 months' time. I said, listen, if it would be of any benefit to you, I could put up some wonderful cars. I could get my team to come together, meet with you guys. We could put up inside this huge auditorium, we could put up some wonderful cars out there and really get the crowds going. So when people come in, they don't just walk in and wait for people to walk down the fashion ramp. They could come in, they can have a look at different things. And exactly that's how it worked. And when the people showed up, we had cars, different fancy models parked at different areas. And we say, listen, let's bring out some of your models. We bring them in some of the cars. And as they come up, we drop them off in front of the front door, and we open the doors for them as they walk through on the red carpet. And it became something that we ran with them for about 2 to 3 years, until we decided that business relationship wasn't working for either party anymore. For whatever reason, we moved on. But that was a phenomenal thing we did together. It started off from networking. So you must always ask yourself, how could I use this relationship in future? And it may not be now, as I keep on saying, it might be in future, but make sure you make the best use of opportunities that come your way. And networking is not always a formal meeting at a formal place. It could be a guy that you meet at your local McDonald's store, and you can have a conversation with him, and that conversation would lead you to many other opportunities as you move forward.
That's beautiful. And I like you going off there, because it really brings it to light. That's perfect. Okay, so the last question would be, thinking what we've talked about today and what the Spirit's impressed upon you, what final career advice would you give to these young professionals, with different walks of life, different countries, different situations? What final advice would you give to them that's kind of like a rubric for success? If they do these things, good things will work out.
Okay, I haven't thought this through, but I'm going to give you some thoughts off the top of my head. One of them is, don't be afraid to fail. So many times we struggle because we sit there and we want a perfect setting that would work perfectly. Don't be afraid to make mistakes in life. When I say mistakes, when you go out there and you set out your career and you set out what you want to do, go and do it. Sometimes you'll make a decision and it will not always give you the right result. But don't let that be a defining moment. Let that help you learn from it and say, what can I learn from this experience, and then become better. Secondly, I would say hard work. Just the simple old hard work doesn't change. Don't put off things for tomorrow. Just put your mind to things, work at a plan that is very basic. A lot of times we can go and we read all these fancy books and wonderful views from different people, but you must say to yourself, where do I want to be in a year's time, in 3 years' time, in 10 years' time, which is short term, medium term, long term. Set goals. Always be the kind of person that sets a goal. And you would sit here and think, oh, but I'm still at school right now. All I want to do is just finish with my degree, or just finish with my certificate. I'm saying to you, great. Even while you're at that stage, set yourself a goal. Say to yourself, once I'm done with this, I would need more time I'll set a goal that I want to take at least 3 months doing the following, and 6 months getting to this stage, and a year getting to this stage. And so set yourself goals that are realistic. The third thing, which is just a little bit different, but don't gauge your success by what's happening around you. So many times we make the big mistake of looking around us and saying, oh, I am a complete failure. Everybody else around me has achieved this and achieved that and achieved that. I'm just not getting it right. You should never let the success of others overpower your achievements. So many times you will achieve things that might look small, but those are some of the stepping stones that you would need to achieve bigger things. Some of the times you may do things that you think, I wonder if this is even relevant. Well, I always say there's a price to be paid for everything that we achieve. If you put in enough hard work, you've got a vision, you work at that. 5, 10 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, I'm grateful that I did what I did, because you'd have established a good foundation for yourself to have the success that will come in a few years' time. Don't run after this quick success. Don't run after these quick things that there's this big thing everywhere. And I'll say, especially I've seen on the African continent about these get rich quick schemes. Everybody sells you a, let me quickly make you get rich. And you run after a scheme of getting rich as quickly as you can. But that's not really what drives it. Great and successful people that I've met with are people that have paid a price to get to where they've gotten. They've got no regrets. They've not taken any shortcuts. They've worked at what they've had to work at. And so we see all this new trend of, let me try and quickly get a quick result out of it. Please, my dear friends, don't try to take the shortcut. Use the right route. It always, it works, and it works best. If you go through that and you pay the price for it, you'll find the success that you'd like to get, and you'll get to where you need to get. And lastly, our level of success, it's never the same. So what makes one person successful, or what they may be gauged and seen by others as successful, somebody else may say, but you've never made it, you've never been successful. Well, you don't have to say, oh, I've not been successful because I did not become a CEO or a managing director. You can find the greatest sense of success in a small sphere where you find yourself and you're happy. I'll share with you this last bit. I've got a very good friend of mine that he worked for us for many years, and then we made him a workshop foreman, a service manager, and he worked for a short bit, and then he quit the job and he left and he worked for a completely different business. And I met him years later, probably 3, 4 years later, and he was at a much lower level than when he left us. From a rank perspective, what you could call, what rank are you at right now? What are you doing from a management position point of view? And when we had lunch together, he shared something with me that I've never forgotten. He said to me, Clement, you nearly destroyed my career. I said, really, why? He said, I was the best technician in the industry, and you made me a manager. And I didn't want to let you down because I've always looked up to you. And I took up the position to become a manager, but I'm not meant to be a manager. I don't like working with people. I don't like dealing with people's problems. I am a guy that's very practical. I like fixing problems. I was happy in the workshop. I was happy just fixing problems. Now I'm doing exactly that. I am fixing problems in workshops, and I'm happy doing that. Now, do you see, my dear friends, where success can be measured? If you're not careful, you could say that, oh, he was so successful in this one business, then he left, he was a manager, and he went and took up a position where he wasn't even managing anymore. But he went to a field and sphere where he was successful and where he enjoyed himself, and he made the best out of that. So just be very careful that we don't get overtaken by events as we look around us and look at others and say, I think I should become that, and that's when I'll be successful. So that's just a parting shot from me. But be passionate about what you do. Just be passionate about it. You must find it in you. There's so much good in the world. There's so much good you can do in the world. Just go out there and do the very best that you can do. Don't be held back by what you cannot do right now. Sometimes we put off our happiness and say, I'll be happy one day when I can do this and achieve that, and achieve this and achieve that. Just be happy right now where you are and enjoy the moment. Just enjoy, serve at the moment, have a great time there. You'll make the greatest impact where you are right now. In a few years' time, when you get to wherever it is that you've set a goal to get to, you would look back and you'd say, I'm grateful that I went through this entire process that I went through. So it's a fun journey. Make sure you make it fun, because you don't want to walk around with in a few years' time and feel nothing but regret for what you've done. Said, I've wasted 20 years of my life not finding the joy that I've looked for. Just find the joy in this journey. It's a wonderful journey to be on. Thank you, David.
Wow, Clement, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for your time. On behalf of the BYU Management Society, we truly appreciate your wisdom, your experience, your passion, and all these wonderful stories, which is life. So thank you for sharing insights into your life, and have a wonderful rest of your day.